Hi, and thanks for tuning in to Pixelated Geeks E3 2014 coverage. I am your co-host, James Honeycutt, and this is...
JJ Kress.
Hi. So, we just finished the live blog for EA's press conference, and we're just going to go over some notes from that. Overall, I thought it was a very strong conference.
Yeah, I noticed that they didn't focus on their hot titles, which they normally do, which is, let's talk about Madden, the game you already know, for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They kind of were like, boom, new features, there you go.
Yeah, largely, we saw FIFA, we saw NHL, we saw Madden. No, we did not see Live. No NBA Live. Surprise. No, but yeah, absolutely, that's a great point. We saw a little bit of footage on their major titles, and that was really it, which is a strong choice for them. The Sims and UFC were the two titles of their huge franchises they spent the most time on, and that's naturally because Sims 4 is a huge leap forward for them, and then UFC is new.
And they have the Bruce Lee factor, and they kind of want to
play that up. Yeah, absolutely. So, let's go, I guess, in order just really quick. The BioWare stuff, they showed Dragon Age Inquisition, which, same trailer as Microsoft's press conference, so nothing super exciting.
With a cello?
With a cello, yes, definitely a cello. And then some cheese dick who said all the feels. And then announced a new Mass Effect, sort of.
Kind of hinted.
Yeah.
Passing comment.
Yeah, that it's...
Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, didn't really go into a lot of detail on it, but showed some really interesting video. It looks pretty. No huge details. And then big news, BioWare, new BioWare IP. No details.
Nope.
But, yeah. So, cool.
We saw some foliage.
We did. A lot of foliage and planetary stuff. I couldn't tell what the setting was from looking at it. It didn't... it's... Obviously, it was... There was a certain forest element to it, but it didn't seem like it was fantasy. It didn't seem like it was sci-fi. It just seemed like it was a forest. So we'll see. Sims 4 looks the same. Yeah, good job, guys. Well done. Nothing super exciting to... It'll sell billions of copies and make them tons of money.
Yeah.
EA, UFC, 2014. What are your thoughts on that? I don't
want to judge a game off its demo. I was actually impressed with the demo because I noticed when you hit somebody, there is this impact of flesh, like the ripple and things like that. The only thing that's always ever bothered me is the lighting, because it's like the whole room's illuminated instead of just the overhead lights and some of the camera lights that you'd see from a real fight. So skin looks really washed out. Like you'll have the detail, but they just look pink or
flat.
Yeah,
they're because it seems like lighting is coming from every available direction. Sometimes the characters don't look as detailed as they actually are, which obviously waste a lot of effort. But yeah, and then there's also 100% more Bruce Lee than there's ever been before.
And I think the game will sell well. I think on that factor alone.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about Bruce Lee being in it.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about when we were watching it, you mentioned that he would probably take issue with it.
Yeah. Because he did do the competitive fighting, I know, when he first came to the States and things like that, and then went into teaching, but it's kind of like, if he were to be alive today, I think that would have been a no.
Yeah, that he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. He would have passed, he would have kind of just chuckled about it, like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I think UFC has always felt really gladiatorial, and he always felt like he was, this is going to sound weird, but above that. So I don't know. The game looks solid, and it'll probably sell like crazy because EA has another exclusive license. NHL looks pretty.
A little chunky.
Yeah, the faces were a little... It's hard to say with certain lighting engines, especially in trailers like this, and given that every single one of EA's new games is in this Ignite engine, it's hard to really judge how a title looks until we actually see one, because we're seeing compressed gameplay footage that's being streamed. So it's hard to say, but one of the things that I noticed about every game we saw tonight that was in the Ignite engine is the faces just looked a little bland.
Yeah. Lifeless.
Yeah. And not animations, just the way that light played on them, texture, etc. That said, anything but bland. That new Criterion game, holy shit, that looks badass.
So I was like, oh, it's a new Need for Speed.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a helicopter. Oh, it's an ATV. Oh, okay.
And then later, a guy jumps out of a helicopter onto a motorbike.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy. Like,
and the flight suits and like, it's all in first person.
Yeah. First person wingsuit. That's effing badass. That's excellent. That game looks great, and they didn't even show us that much of it. But
I want it.
Yeah, I want it too. I want it now. I will buy it no matter what. That really. See, I think Criterion, when they had their own sort of independent nature, with the Burnout titles, they were really in their element, and they were a great developer. And I think Need for Speed sort of shackled them a little bit.
Yeah. Because it was you could do your Burnout things in our game, but it had to be a Need for Speed game at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is just them doing whatever they want, and that's great. I'm gonna buy the shit out of that. Madden again, another EA sports title. Like, it will be high production value, it will be well done, it will be deep, it'll have a lot of gameplay, and everyone will buy it. So great. The only really interesting thing that I saw that they mentioned was this new defensive, like, hit zone. There's there seemed to be like a cone of vision, sort of similar to the QB vision cone. And there was a narrower angle and a wider angle, and if you were in the narrower angle, your tackle was going to be more successful than if it was in the wider angle, which makes sense because you can't tackle behind you. Gotcha. I mean, new feature, great. They seem to be focusing heavily on the defensive stuff, but nothing really to talk about. But again, I mean, EA doesn't have to.
No.
They're big titles. They're going to sell because they're going to be good. So the new MOBA... Huh?
I was going to say PGA, but...
Oh, did we? I didn't skip that, did I? I totally skipped that. I did.
Tiger Woods?
Yeah, Tiger. Tiger has been dropped, which is not a surprise. He's not doing so well competitively or personally. I mean, he's crying all the way to the bank, but yeah. So they dropped it, and then, yeah, this other thing. So, like, way back in the day, one of my favorite things to do in college, we would order Chinese food, and we would play the weird courses in Tiger Woods, like the Predator. The Predator was always my favorite. It was in the Amazon. It was absolutely impossible. So this one has flaming battleships. It looked like Wake Island, is what it looked like. It looked like Wake Island from Battlefield 3, and just a ship just
chilling,
smashed into the land, flaming, and the dude drove over it. Yeah, crazy. Whatever. You got to do something to make those games interesting.
And I think they can do that now that Tiger's name has been dropped, because people would expect more of a classic golf vibe. And I think Tiger, we can be a serious golf game, but we can also have a little fun.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be really interested to see where this goes, and especially how the PGA Tour feels with their name smeared all over the title with exploding battleships. I don't know. It looked interesting. But so yeah, a new MOBA, Dawn Gate, put together by a bunch of MOBA fans. It's another MOBA.
I feel like it's early. I mean, it's not too early to call there's going to be too many MOBAs.
I think there are already too many.
I mean, there already are.
Yeah, there are a lot of MOBAs.
Saying it. It's more, let's see what this studio can do.
Yeah.
I think there's already enough.
Well, it was when they announced Heroes of the Storm, really, that I had the first feeling in that direction. I was like, and Blizzard's making one, so...
Everyone's going to have one now.
Now everybody's going to have to make one, because there are 3 huge ones. It was one of those things where, like, I had heard of Infinite Crisis, hadn't even realized it released yet. Heard of Guardians of Middle-earth, didn't even know it was out yet.
Dead Island has one.
Dead Island has a MOBA. Yes, well... Yeah, no, it's not too early to say there are too many MOBAs. It's not. There are too many MOBAs. This one looked okay. It didn't look bad. It looked fine. I don't care. That was my feeling.
I just play Dota 2.
Right, exactly. The one where you don't have to spend extra money just to play things. That was a death stare for MOBA developers. Stop with the microtransactions. And this is EA.
It's going to be there.
Too many. Just too many MOBAs, too many microtransactions. You're done. You're cut off. Mirror's Edge, though. looked amazing. We know that's going to be good. It's going to be good. DICE never does junk. Heard a rumor earlier that it looks like that it was a reboot, but it didn't.
They never said
it
anything. No, they didn't pitch it
like it was a reboot. They just
we're redesigning the runners and all that. But it was like they said redesign on certain things, but not a direct.
Yeah, and it didn't really particularly feel like. Do you want to say hello to the internet? Hey, internet, it's a cat. They didn't seem to be changing any core gameplay elements. Like they didn't turn it into a shooter or anything crazy like that. It looks beautiful. Beautiful art style. She looks amazing.
The movement that they showed of the wall to wall combat.
Yes, that did look absolutely badass. So this is our other co-host. Her name is Vixen.
Yep.
She's aware that JJ is deathly allergic to cats, which is why she continues paying attention to them. Vixen feels quite ambivalent about Mirror's Edge. You can tell because she's not saying anything about it. But no, gorgeous game. Maybe open world. Kind of hinted at a larger open area.
Bigger scale. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Just give it to me now, really, is all I care about. FIFA introduced a lot of sort of new camera angles in order to facilitate environmental immersion. Field deformation, which is always great in a title like that. Field deformation essentially just means that if you slide tackle, you tear up the terrain. And that's something I think we need. Like, it looks good. It looks real.
Yeah, because then you can be like, I've actually played a hard match when you look at the field and it's just torn up.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of like what happened like early on in like the PS2 development stage when you finally got like water that reflected. Like, great. We need more details like that. It isn't anything that's going to really pivotally change the game, but it definitely helps immersion. And then Idris Elba was the voiceover guy, which
I might buy it for that.
Yeah, I think probably will spike pre-orders by like 400% because I could listen to that man read the back of a soup can. Yeah,
I'd have him read.
Oh God. Oh, just come over and cuddle, Idris Elba. We love you here deeply. This has nothing to do with games. Battlefield Hardline.
I tried throwing my wallet at your TV.
Yeah, exactly. Went from what was one of just the uglier trailers I had ever seen, the alpha footage trailer for that. That was obviously like a leak pitch. That looked terrible. This does not look terrible. The gameplay has not altered a whit. Obviously, they have the same people involved in it. It's just this looked stunning. Like, it looked absolutely beautiful. Environmental deformation. The multiplayer matches, they didn't say that it was going to be limited to 32, but the match they showed was 32.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I think in a cops and robbers situation, you're not going to have 32 robbers fighting 32 cops.
Yeah. I mean, I think in that game mode, at the very least, you could argue that 32 is fine. I'd still like to see some 64-on-64 matches just because it is Battlefield, and that's one of the things that really establishes it as the powerhouse that it is. But yeah, I can't say anything bad about it. It looked badass. I mean, as long as we can have a bunch of multiplayer matches that make us feel like we're in a Michael Mann movie, I want to heist things. That's what I want.
And I think they saw the popularity with Payday and then Counter-Strike, and they're kind of blending it with the Battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it looks like it's going to work. I hope it does. And then Visceral's working on it, so...
Yeah, amazing developer. Visceral is the studio that developed Dead Space 1 and 2 and...
Dante's Inferno?
Did 3? Did they do 3 or did they hand 3 off?
I can't remember.
Okay. But yeah, Dante's Inferno as well. Great studio, a lot of narrative strength behind them, which is good because the Battlefield games have none of that, and never have.
I can say I played the campaigns for 3 and 4. I can't recall things that happened in them.
I know that I beat them both, and I know that there was a lot of me shooting, and I spent more time customizing my gun than I did paying attention to the game. That's really all that was. But that looked phenomenal. That was what they closed the show with, right?
Because they announced it with the beta.
Right, exactly. And that, yes! See, that is how you do that. absolutely.